My name is Sam Jenks, and welcome to another episode of The Way We Source, a podcast hosted by Kodiak Hub, where we share our talks with procurement practitioners, leaders, experts, consultants, content gurus, and people we find downright inspiring, diving into the role that sourcing and procurement plays in the way that we live. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting the supply chain maven, PhD, speaker, educator, blogger, vlogger, host of the Supply Chain Show, and founder and CEO of Supply Chain Management Dojo, Dr. Muddassir Ahmed. Dr. Muddassir, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Richard, and the team. I think you've been doing a great job here. And I must say, you're the first person who has pronounced the company name correctly and my name also correctly at the same time. So well done, you.
Thank you very much. Now, I have to start with a question here. How in the heck do you have the time?
Time for the podcast?
Everything.
That's a good question. I think people ask me this. I do blogging. I have a full-time business, team management, vlogging, and all that. See, the thing is all about productivity, and I think the productivity is more about what you don't do than what you do, right? And I'm very actually picky on what I don't do, right? So, for example, actually, I have a little shorts or YouTube shorts as we call it these days on this. So, 5 things I actually don't do. I don't play video games at all. I've got no interest in that. I don't watch TV at all. Maybe I just for Netflix or a movie, maybe one series just keep me off track. Keep my missus happy, and then I basically don't watch politics at all. Have zero interest in politics. Right, I don't do that, and actually, I say more no than I say yes to things as well. So that also helps. And I basically I read a lot. When reading a lot or listening to knowledgeable content help me being productive, I think.
Very cool. And then we're very happy, of course, that even though you're selective, you said yes to being on today's episode of The Way We Source. I have to ask you, what exactly does sourcing and procurement mean to you?
See, there is a bill. It was purchasing, and then it moved to procurement on a more strategic nature of the
Right.
things, and now sourcing. So sourcing is out and out strategic function, right? Where you can go in and you have to find these strategic suppliers, strategic partners. I wouldn't use the word suppliers because it just doesn't sound right. Strategic partners, right? Which can add value to your business, add value to your services, help you grow, help you innovate, right? So this is how I see the real value proposition, where I do not see the, okay, however, I work for a corporate business 16, 17 years. I work for 2 very big brands. And the way I see the role of procurement and sourcing, get me the cost out. This mindset of they have like the biggest KPI they have is cost reduction or cost out, as we call it, or savings in some companies, I think is detrimental to the overarching goal of value proposition of sourcing, right? Because there's only so much you can focus on cost, right? We should be focusing on how procurement and sourcing create value, right? And how they define value by finding the right partners, and in terms of in doing the innovation, creating new ideas, launching product faster. Let me give you a quick story just to prove my point here. So
Sure.
We are on a high end brand. Then I think I'm talking about a decade ago, right? Maybe not true right now. So apologies for the recent procurement. I don't have a recent story. Then the sourcing people said, the Chinese players are coming in. They're eroding on the price, but we don't want to dilute our brand. Let's do and go and source from China, right? So the sourcing guy has been given this task of go and find a supplier in China. And guess what they did? They actually find a very good supplier to find into China, make a good product with the price range they've given to, bring the product price to 45% down. But the thing is, in the whole this sourcing, they almost totally forget that if you're making in-house or Eastern Europe, the lead time is shorter, right? If you're going to source from China, the lead time is going to go 4 months up. So what is the complication of longer lead time? That means you have to have a longer forecasting, which we are not good at. You have to have a more inventory, which we are not planned at. So it end up being a disastrous project because we end up being inventory which we don't need, hardly sell any, and didn't do the purpose. So what is procurement for? Not really. The thing was, it was just cost was was driving focus alone, which did not create a value for the project itself.
Yeah, understood. And of course, if cost is the key indicator, then it's going to be hard to create more holistic value for the organization. And that's a great story to be able to highlight that as well, why it's so important to take those things into consideration holistically. We want to cover that topic as well, as I know that you're passionate about supplier collaboration, about supplier development, and we want to talk about some of those things with you. But first, for some of those that don't know, I was gonna ask you to please give a little bit of background, about Supply Chain Management Dojo. First, if you don't mind telling some of the listeners that aren't familiar with it, what are you guys doing at Supply Chain Management Dojo, and also, why did you start the organization?
Yeah, I think the probably the better answer is why we start, then it leads to what we do, why we do it. So actually, I finished my PhD, right, and I started doing blogging. And the reason I started doing
Hmm.
blogging, I realized that the supply chain content was pretty weak. Let's say, again, what is how the MRP runs? I mean, MRP was invented in 1956, right? I mean, God forbid, just leave that part alone, right? But tell me
Mm.
something which is more interesting. Again, you talk about sourcing. People say, "Oh, these are the seven stages of sourcing." You can Google it, you can find it.
Yeah.
But can somebody share? Okay, what are the best practices? How you, as experienced people, are basically have used those 7 steps to drive the value. And this is where, I mean,
Right.
you guys are doing this right now. Well, I started like in 2015, which actually no one doing it, right? So I started writing blogs like using my experience. 18 ways how you reduce inventory, or 7 strategies how to improve your forecasting, or for example 8 ways how you measure your inventory KPIs, or for example we have written up one of the famous blog of 25 favorite questions into your supply chain interview, right? This is very much like digital marketing people, the way they write list blogs and how to
Yeah.
blogs.
Yeah.
So run about the
Mm.
blogging, and then I learned about SEO and digital marketing a bit. And I just figured out, even though I had no qualification, I never really actually read a book of marketing in my life. Almost sort of
No.
self-taught person, that I figured out the art of SEO, or how to rank on YouTube and Google. And so that worked out pretty well. And my blog SCM Dojo become famous and famous. We are in top 10 website globally. We get 50,000 visitors. We got 32,000 emails due to subscribers, and we have a very vibrating community. And I've got a lot of followers. I think 67,000 just on LinkedIn, and 25,000 on Facebook. So my job was pretty good. I was head of planning and operations for Bridgestone. Then COVID hit, and COVID, almost like the biggest blessing a supply chain community can ever have, right? Is somehow
Mm.
taken us from an administrative task to like a strategic level problem, where the money was pouring in by VCs and or CEOs now talking about digitalization, digital transformation, driving internal
Yeah.
efficiencies, more customer intimacy, customer centric supply chain. And those was the topic where I was basically writing about or talking about for some time. It was just not the mainstream topics, right? So I was just maybe 2 3 years ahead of time for the rest of the world. And then people start contacting me, can you advise us, do this, coach us? And I cannot do simply myself. So I said, okay, that's the best way to get the all this knowledge content to hundreds, thousands of people, is by digitalization, right?
Mm.
And that's what we
Mm.
did. And I'm not alone. I have a lot of experts. So we created SCM Dojo. So dojo is a word, which Japanese word, which means place to stay and meditate. Like judo karate. So
Mm.
supply chain
Mm.
management dojo, and that's the brand come from. Our main vision and aim is to help supply chain people survive and thrive. So we are not the hero. The supply chain people are hero. We are here as your guide, as your mentor, right? Is to basically, if somebody has watched the King's speech, when the king was basically stuttering talking, and there's a guy who teach him how to speak better, and so we are that guy. So if whatever shoes you
Mm.
have, your knowledge content, we have a knowledge content, from the expert courses. We have the best practices. So if you want to know how to do inventory optimization, we got the tool. You need a best supply chain KPI, we got the tool. If you know how to improve your warehouse, we got the tool. If you know how to run SOP better, we've got the tool. So you think about the process, you think about the problem, you're going to come to us. We're going to find you an expert, we're going to find you a tool, we're going to find you a best practice, and we're going to find you a course, right? And all of that is available in one very simple monthly platform.
Fantastic. I'm curious. Transitioning. You said that you've been a practitioner. And I looked through a bit of your LinkedIn page before our sitting, of course, and did a bit of my homework. 15 plus years at various companies like Volvo Car, Eaton, Bridgestone, and alike. What's one thing that you know now today that you wish that you knew when you started your career
Yeah,
in purchasing?
a great question, mate. Absolutely great question. So if you see in SCM Dojo, we are very much focusing on mentoring. right? So all our members who are paying us money or even not paying us money, part of our community somehow, newsletter, however, doesn't matter, connected to us, will get free mentoring from us. And this is our way of giving back. And this is, so the thing is, in I work for British American corporation, bosses are bosses, right? They're supposed to delegate tasks to you, give it to you. If you're super lucky, then you're gonna find a boss who's actually act as a mentor, not just a delegator and get shit done boss, right? In supply chain, unfortunately, most of the bosses are get shit done. I told you to do so, go and do it. I mean, 1 out of 10 bosses are actually mentor. And I was lucky enough to find one. I have like 7-8 bosses, and there was a clear difference who was the boss who was a mentor slash a boss than the bosses was just bosses, right? Because you can learn up from your boss who's a mentor. You can look up to him, you can learn leadership strategies, technical strategies, and so on and so forth. And I realized that this is where, if somebody can become a supply chain, because this is what everybody wants to improve into their career, right? They want to grow, they want to apply for a managerial jobs, they want to apply for a leadership jobs, they want to make more money. And absolutely everyone should strive to do that. If you have some ambition in your life, or even no ambition, you should do it anyway. So the difference is the lack of mentoring. The knowledge is there, the resources are there, but mentoring is a very intangible stuff. If somebody could have mentored me and I've made some mistakes along my career, I could have cut that lead time to get to a director or manager but easily by 2 years. Easily. Right? Because I learned from a mistake rather than somebody telling me, this is how you delegate. I mean, let me give you a simple example. Okay? To become a manager, you got to delegate. But nobody actually teaches you how to delegate. But if I'm mentoring somebody, I'll say there's a 4 steps of delegation, right? You define the task, you identify the person you want to delegate, you define what you want to delegate, ask the person, do you understand what I'm asking when you're asking, and then check, right? And that's the difference. And that's the difference, right? So if I knew the mentorship, I have a mentor like we are providing right now, it would make a huge difference. And right now we are trying to make a huge difference in people's life in cutting that lead time of growth.
Fantastic. And I think that finding a mentor is so important. It's such a good thing to highlight as well. And those four tips to delegate, spoken like a true once procurement professional turned into expert marketer. So I love that as well. I have to ask you about the topic that of course is the one that we're really excited to talk to you about today, and a topic that obviously excites you. I looked through and you've published your doctorate thesis on the topic itself, titled "Enhanced Supplier Development Framework: A Systematic Approach to Improve Supplier Performance." And I'm curious, how exactly do you think that supplier development can be leveraged to improve supplier performance, or can it be?
Again, a great question. Let's go down to the very basics of procurement, right? So procurement is essentially having a supply relationship to find a product or a service at a best possible cost, at the best possible quality, at the best possible delivery lead time, right? Okay, and if you think about, I'm making it super simple so everybody understand, right? And then around that you make your complicated contracts, right? Service level contract, quality contracts, inspection contracts, whatever, which is all good, by the way. You can add innovation in there, you can add management structure in there, but essentially you want a product, right? But here's the thing: the theory is, and it's all, again, it's kind of linked with my whole mentoring mantra as well. So if you see the historical relationship, or let's call it before the birth of SRM, which is you guys are very good at doing this. It was this whole very much, okay, have a 10 suppliers, let them compete with each other, and then find the best one, and the one who's not performing, beat the crap out of them, right? This whole historical buyer pointing at figure, I'm the boss, I'm the customer, that has gone, right? SRM has proven that the SRM, that means supply relationship management, is a body of knowledge where you talk about commercial collaboration, you talk about projects, you talk about innovation, you talk about sharing the data and stuff. But this is where the supply development kicks in. So my theory or my research says, the famous Kraljic metrics, right? The strategic supplier, non-strategic suppliers, we all know that,
leverage,
right?
bottleneck,
Leverage partner and all this, okay? And we know that there's no point investing time on the non-strategic or retained supplier, right? But for the strategic and the maintained supplier or leverage supplier, we want to develop them somehow. And there's two ways to develop them. The one is a reactive way, and one is a strategic way. Pose a difference. Reactive way is you put them into a KPIs, you monitor the KPIs, and you tell them you're not hitting the KPIs, your delivery is late, or your lead time is still longer, or your quality is poor, and then you basically have a quarterly reviews with them, and then basically say, "Fucking go and improve it." Right? Okay, that is still a very reactive way of delivering a supply, but it works. Then we move to the strategic supplier, right? So, for example, you are an automotive or let's say electronic manufacturer, right? Electronic manufacturing is a very specialized manufacturing. For example, you can't go and just find 20 suppliers. You have to work with few suppliers, and there's very few suppliers who are very good at it. Same the issue with electrical, same issue with automotive, and most of the industries, oil and gas as well. But you can't have this adversarial, reactive supply development relationship. You have to build partnership. What do I mean by that? So if you want to reduce cost, right, or lead time, and you and your team are very good in, for example, lean manufacturing and value stream mapping, you can go and offer, you know what, we want to work with your strategic partner. Our expert of lean people are going to come in, and we're going to do a value stream mapping at your place. We're going to look into your manufacturing processes, and we're going to identify what waste you have. Okay, and if we can end up saving money to you, right, which we can because we are good at it, that means you're gonna give us some cost out. That is strategic. That is strategic supply development. Okay, but there is a in the research there's a counter argument for that. Most of the, let's call it a first year supplier or even second supplier who's serving into any specific industry, let's take electrical, they supply to competition as well. So if I'm working for Eaton, the same supplier also supplying to Schneider, right? So who's a competition? So if you are improving your supplier, that means you are somehow benefiting to your competition at the same time. I mean, that was the common sense would say, right? But then you can say, okay, but that's fine. I want to help the supplier. That means you build this relationship. The supplier gonna like you enough that they're gonna give you something more, something extra. And this is where you have to build more relationship in some to say, okay, the benefit for us, we're gonna help you. Similarly, we launched this program to test our theory, IDS program. IDS program, which is like every supplier needs to come up with at least two innovative ideas, because all the suppliers are also innovative, right? They're just making bets. They might have few ideas or a product that can be fed into our R&D pipeline, and maybe our engineering team can come work together to become more collaborative and improve. So the point is there's a clear pathways between a reactive supply development and a strategic supply development. So that is my theory, and I develop a framework for that, right? And I like to think most of the people who are using SRM or supply relationship framework should be very, very well versed on those theories.
And the fact maybe is also that there isn't a correct approach, but a correct fit for the type of supplier, maybe even so.
Yeah, I mean, one size doesn't fit all, right? I mean, as we know, so you have to pick from the toolkit, tool sets you have, right? So there is a set of toolkit available. There's a technique. So I mean, like people talk about continuous improvement, for example, yeah. So with the thing with continuous improvement is there is not one technique for continuous improvement, right? There is several techniques for continuous improvement, and the same goes with the supply development as well.
Fantastic points, Dr. Muddassir, and I think that we could talk to you about this particular topic a lot longer. Unfortunately, we're rounding out on today's episode, and I wanted to get in the last element, which is the quick fire round of today's session. Nothing about procurement and sourcing really at all. It's a few quick questions that we wanted to ask you, 1 or 2 word answers that you're able to then just give us quickly off the top of your head. All right. So
Cool.
We'll start with if you're choosing a car for comfort or a car for fun, which is the car and which is your car for comfort, which is your car for fun?
Car for comfort has to be either Lexus or Infiniti Q70, right?
And if you could dream your wildest dreams, a car for fun,
I would. That's a good one. Actually, I'm gonna drive something small, crazy electric cars, right? Which is see how does
cool.
Yeah.
All right, nice. If you could recommend one book, what would it be?
Oh, one book. The one I'm recently reading and finished. Yeah, it's called Your Brand Story or Building the Brand Story. That's the one. Or I think before that, Hard Things About Hard Things by Anderson Hortz. Hard Things About Hard Things.
Cool.
Every business person should read that.
And there's a question that we've been asking a lot of our guests, a Swedish term that's called paradrätt. It's pretty much, I'm coming over to dinner to you tonight. It's your go-to. What are you making me?
You're asking the wrong person. I'm not really a foodie. I'm not good in food. I will just take the easiest possible option, or I'll just make you noodles.
Oh, fantastic. Noodles are good.
I just want to say a few things about Kodiak and you guys. I think I have been contacted by a lot of companies, and I've done podcasts. It's been issued recently, and I must say what you guys doing in the SRM space is pretty cutting edge. I would recommend everybody to go and have a look what you guys doing, and I think this was one of the most fun podcast I have ever done. So thank you very much. And I'm going to actually steal your idea of the quick fire questions, and I'll include Matt in my supply chain show.
If you want to learn more about Dr. Muddassir, go and follow him on LinkedIn. You'll join one of 67,000 plus people that are already doing so today. Follow what they're doing at Supply Chain Management Dojo. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to be on today's episode.
Thank you. I wish you all good luck, guys. Stay in touch. Cheers. Have a good day.